Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be with you today, although I would have preferred to do that in person and meet you as we did 2 years ago at the kickoff meeting in Lisbon, June 2018. Most people with extensive disabilities who require assistance with the activities of daily living are dependent on their families or live in residential institutions. To improve our situation, to live in the community at conditions equal to our non-disabled brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, we need to work for a national personal assistance policy. What does such a policy have to look like? What features must it contain? Should such a policy be based on the results of the present Portuguese pilot projects? People who know very little about personal assistance assume that our assistance mainly makes sure that we don't freeze, don't starve, don't smell. That may be all we need to survive, but we are not interested in survival. We want to have a life. To have a life means to grow up in our family, play and hang out with the kids of the neighborhood, get an education and develop our mind, work in interesting jobs, contribute to society. Like all humans, we want to make friends, fall in love, start families. Like all humans, we need to feel that we make a difference. We can achieve all that despite our disabilities. We can have rich and fulfilling lives with true personal assistance. True personal assistance must meet the following conditions. The first condition is that we, the users, are in charge of our personal assistance. We are in charge when we recruit, employ, train, schedule, and supervise our assistants. The more we can adapt and fine-tune our personal assistance solution to our unique person and unique personal circumstances, and the better we learn how to use this tool, the higher will be the degree of our self-determination and the quality of our life. That's what makes personal assistance personal. Yet, in the Portuguese pilot projects, users are not in charge. They cannot recruit, employ, train, schedule, and supervise their assistants. Somebody else is doing this. For example, regarding training, assistants receive 50 hours of generalized training. Most likely, much of this training consists of telling our assistants the medical implications of different disabilities, such as what's wrong with us, what we cannot do, and what we should do by ourselves. I don't want somebody else tell my assistants what they should do for me and how they should do it and what I should do by myself. Somebody who's never seen me, doesn't know anything about my life, my person, my assistive technology, my family, my work and interests. We are the best experts on our needs. And if anybody needs training, it is us, the users, because we need to learn how to train and supervise our assistants. We often get to hear that personal assistants might work for persons with physical, but not for cognitive or psychosocial impairments. In Sweden, currently, 51% of the persons who receive direct payments for personal assistance have autism and similar impairments or acquired brain damage. They might not be able to take all the decisions that employers and supervisors must take, but their direct payment budgets contain money for hiring someone for supported decision making. That can be a relative or a former assistant whom the person trusts. In Sweden, a number of assistance providers and user cooperatives specialize in serving clients who need supported decision making. The independent living movement has been developing solutions for supported decision making from its beginning to make sure that we all can benefit from personal assistance. The second condition is that the user controls the money flow. And we control the money through direct payments, that is, money from the government goes directly to the users, who then have the means to recruit, employ, train, schedule, and supervise their assistants. The money must follow the users, not the service providers. In this way, there are no middlemen who pocket a percentage of the government's money and who rob us of the control over our services. Interestingly, here we meet the biggest resistance in countries where disabled people are overprotected and considered unable to make decisions in their own best interest. Service providers will do their best to spread such an image of us, to defend their raison d'etre, and to defend their income. In your pilot projects, assistance users do not control the money. Can they switch easily from one service to another if dissatisfied? Do they make the final decisions about hiring, setting wages, or firing assistants? When we don't manage the money, we can't be the employer and must accept any service provider that the government selects for us. We will be the object, not the subject. And our assistants will have a different attitude towards us. If you are not the boss, if you are not able to switch service providers, you can't enforce good service quality. You'll have to accept what you get. You are made to feel dependent on your assistance. The third condition requires that the direct payments cover the costs of all the hours of assistance that we require, and that they enable us to pay our assistants competitive wages. Without decent wages, people working for us will expect our gratitude. Under these circumstances, we cannot count on prompt, competent, and reliable work. Without sufficient assistance hours, without sufficient service quality, we will have to rely on family and volunteers. We will be dependent. We will have to make compromises and concessions. We will have very little self-determination. In your pilot projects, assistance users get a maximum of 40 hours a week of assistance, that is fewer than 6 hours a day. How are people expected to live who need more hours? In my case, for example, I need at least 18 hours a day. How would I manage in Portugal? Obviously, people in my situation must rely on relatives, friends, and volunteers. They would not, quote, live independently and be included in the community, unquote, as the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities stipulates. My wife and I aspire the same independence or interdependence from each other that other Swedish couple enjoy. She wants to leave the house, go to work, travel abroad by herself, just as I do. We do travel together, but only when we both want to, and not because I need her to come along as my assistant. With the Portuguese pilot projects, my wife would be forced to be my Siamese twin, my lifelong unpaid assistant. That's a terrible strain on a relationship. The fourth condition is that eligible persons must receive personal assistance regardless of age. Personal assistance is listed in the Convention as a human right, and human rights are not restricted to certain age brackets. But your pilot projects do restrict personal assistance to users older than 16 years. Yet children and the families would benefit tremendously from personal assistance. They could carry on with their lives, continue their jobs or education, go out without having a bad conscience. I've met parents of small children with multiple disabilities who were at the brink of psychosis for lack of sleep. They got their life back only after the children had personal assistance. For the child with a disability, personal assistance is the way to gradually become more independent from the family, just like any other kid. With personal assistance, a child can learn to do things by itself. Hang out with friends, or take responsibilities for the family's household chores, one of them at least, or go to school. Doing things without mom or dad is essential for personal growth. Naturally, when the child is very young, the parents want to make sure that the assistants apply the same pedagogic principles as the parents. But as the child grows older, the assistant should be seen not as the prolonged arm as the parents, but as somebody who enables their child to discover and participate in the world around it on its own terms. The fifth condition is that users do not have to share the personal assistance with other users. In institutions, everyone has to share workers with other inmates. That's what all institutions have in common. That's the reason why most of us try to stay away from them. And sharing assistance would turn our homes into mobile institutions and drastically reduce our self-determination. The pilot project together employ 570 personal assistants who work for altogether 833 users. That is 570 assistants for 833 users. So quite a few users are forced to share assistance. That means they cannot choose who's to help them in the shower, in the toilet, who will open their mail, listen to the phone calls, witness the family quarrels. This is humiliating and has nothing to do with living independently and being included in the community at conditions as others. In summary, the pilot projects do not meet these 5 conditions. This is not what the independent living movement and the CRPD mean by personal assistance. Your solution does not comply with the United Nations CRPD Article 19 as defined in General Comment number 5. Your pilot projects do not give the users the means to control and optimize the quality of their services, and thus the quality of their lives. It does not give taxpayers the best value for their money. With the same money, a much better system could have been designed, a solution that liberates persons with disabilities from dependence on the family, and one that empowers them to live with self-determination in the community. This does not come as a surprise. Most pilot projects were formed by organizations for people with specific medical impairments, such as cerebral palsy, neuromuscular, or other impairments. These organizations are typically run by persons without disabilities. For them, disability is a medical issue, not a social or human rights issue. They may be experts on medical interventions or rehabilitation, but how much do they know about what it takes to live independently and be included in the community? Also, a number of these organizations, the organizations that run the pilot projects, have been managing residential institutions for decades. What do they know about enabling persons to live in the community? They've probably organized their so-called personal assistance services as much as possible in the same way as their institutions. That is, with the same organizational culture, same hierarchical structure, perhaps even with the same staff. Sure, the pilot projects might offer a quality of life that may be slightly better than that in residential institutions. But residential institutions are not our criterion of comparison. Our comparison is the quality of life that non-disabled people take for granted. 2 years ago, at the kickoff meeting of the project in Lisbon in 2018, I've made the very same points when I defined what true personal assistance is about. I'm sorry to say that your pilot projects have nothing to do with true personal assistance. They are fake personal assistance. And I do hope that the future Portuguese national personal assistance policy is not based on the result of these pilot projects. Thank you. I kept my presentation short to leave more time for questions and answers. So please, go ahead.